Look at her." He laughed, swirling his scotch as he pointed to the woman standing quietly in the corner of the ballroom. "She looks like she belongs in a library, not a luxury gala. God, I need an upgrade." Parker Archer thought he was the smartest man in the room. He thought his wife Selina was nothing more than a plain, penniless anchor, dragging down his soaring career on Wall Street. He treated her like a maid, paraded his mistress in front of her, and planned to serve her divorce papers the moment his company's billion-dollar merger went through. But Parker forgot one rule of high-stakes business. Always do your due diligence. Because when the flashbulbs exploded, they weren't for him. And when the headline on the New York Chronicle dropped the next morning, it didn't announce his promotion. It read, "The Lost Billionaire, Selina Kensington Found." This is the story of a man who dug his own grave with arrogance and the woman who bought the cemetery. The rain in Chicago didn't wash the city clean, it just made the grit slicker. From the 42nd floor of the Legacy Tower on Wabash Avenue, the city looked like a circuit board of gold and grey, buzzing with money. Parker Archer adjusted his cuffs. They were custom-made, monogrammed with PA in silver thread. He checked his reflection in the floor-to-ceiling glass. At 34, Parker was the youngest director at Sterling & Finch, a fictional competitor to the likes of Goldman Sachs. He was handsome in a predatory way, sharp jaw eyes that calculated the cost of everything they touched, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Selina." He barked, not turning away from the window. "Where are my keys? The Audi keys. I'm already late for the partners' dinner at Alinea." Selina emerged from the kitchen. She was a small woman, drowning in a beige cardigan that had seen better days. Her hair was pulled back in a severe, messy bun, held together by a plastic clip. She wore no makeup, and her glasses were thick-rimmed and practical. To the outside world, she was the definition of plain. "They're on the console, Parker," she said, her voice soft, barely a murmur above the hum of the refrigerator. "Right next to your phone." Parker snatched the keys, sneering as he looked her up and down. "Are you planning on wearing that for the rest of the night?" "I'm not going out," Selina replied, picking up a stray lint roller to clean the shoulder of his suit jacket. He swatted her hand away. "Obviously," he scoffed. "But even if you're staying in, you look like a librarian who got fired for being too boring. Do you know who I'm meeting tonight? Charles Whitmore." The Charles Whitmore. His wife is a former pageant queen. She runs 3 charities and looks like a movie star, and I come home to this. He gestured vaguely at her entire existence. Selina didn't flinch. She was used to this. For 3 years since they had met in a coffee shop near the university library, Parker had slowly chipped away at her. Back then he had been charming, seemingly interested in her quiet intellect. But as his career skyrocketed, his patience for her plummeted. He needed a prop, a glossy accessory to hang on his arm at galas. Selina was just furniture. "I made dinner," she said, pivoting the subject. "Pot roast. It's in the... I'm eating at a 3-star Michelin restaurant, Selina." Parker laughed, a cruel, dry sound. "Throw that slop out, or eat it yourself. God knows you don't watch your figure." He checked his Rolex, a Submariner he'd bought with his last bonus. "Don't wait up, and for God's sake don't call me. If Whitmore sees wife pop up on my phone, he'll ask about you. And I don't have the energy to lie about why you're never at these events." He stormed out, the heavy oak door slamming shut with a finality that shook the frames on the wall. Selina stood in the silence of the multi-million-dollar apartment, an apartment Parker constantly reminded her he paid for. She walked to the window and watched the tiny red taillights of his Audi R8 merge into traffic. She didn't cry. She hadn't cried over Parker Archer in a long time. Instead, she walked to the kitchen, but she didn't touch the pot roast. She reached into the back of the pantry behind the dusty cans of soup and pulled out a sleek burner phone. It was an encrypted BlackBerry, a model not sold in stores. It was blinking red. One message. She pressed a button. The voice on the other end was gruff, British, and deferential. "Miss Kensington, the board is growing impatient. The acquisition of Sterling and Finch is entering the final stage. We need your signature on the chaotic trust documents by Friday if we are to proceed with the hostile takeover. Shall I send the jet?" Selina brought the phone to her ear. Her posture changed. The slump vanished. Her chin lifted, and her eyes behind the thick glasses were cold and sharp as cut diamonds. "No jet, Arthur," she said, her voice dropping an octave, losing the timid wobble she used with Parker. "Not yet. Parker thinks he's about to make partner. I want him to fly high. The fall is so much more satisfying from the stratosphere." "As you wish, Ma'am." "And the husband? He called me a fired librarian today," Selina said, tracing the rim of the granite countertop. "Let's see how he likes it when the librarian cancels his library card." The next morning, the offices of Sterling and Finch were buzzing with the kind of frantic energy that only smells like money. The rumour mill was in overdrive. The Kensington Group, a shadowy European private equity conglomerate known for swallowing companies whole, was looking for a new American asset. Parker Archer strode into the office like he owned the building. He tossed his briefcase onto his desk and winked at the receptionist. "Coffee black, and get Jessica Vane in here." He barked. Jessica Vane was everything Selina wasn't. Tall blonde, impeccably dressed in a fitted red Versace dress that screamed power move. She was the VP of marketing, and for the last 6 months, she had also been the woman in Parker's bed. She sauntered into his glass-walled office, closing the door and frosting the glass with the touch of a button. "You look tense, darling," Jessica purred, sitting on the edge of his desk, crossing her long legs. "Trouble in Paradise, did the mouse squeak too loud?" Parker groaned, loosening his tie. "Selina is impossible. She's a void, Jess. A black hole of charisma. I sat with Charles Whitmore last night, and he was bragging about his wife's foundation, raising $2 million for cancer research. I had to invent a migraine for Selina just to explain why she wasn't there." Jessica laughed, leaning forward to straighten his collar. "Well, you won't have to pretend much longer. Once the Kensington deal goes through, you'll be a senior partner with a 7-figure buy-in. You can divorce the mouse, give her the condo in the suburbs, and we can finally be the power couple on the cover of Fortune." "God, I can't wait," Parker muttered. "She's just so plain. It's embarrassing. I took her to a company picnic last month, and she spent the whole time talking to the janitorial staff about their union benefits. Who does that? Someone with a peasant mentality," Jessica sneered. "Forget her. Focus on the gala. The Golden Horizon Gala is in 2 weeks. It's the biggest event of the year. The CEO of the Kensington Group is rumored to be making an appearance to announce the acquisition target." Parker's eyes lit up. "If I can land FaceTime with the Kensington CEO, I'm made. I'll bypass Whitmore. I'll run this place." "Exactly," Jessica smiled. "And you can't take Selina to that. You need someone who speaks the language of billions, someone who shines." "I'm taking you," Parker said decisively. "I'll tell Selina it's a partners-only work retreat. She's too stupid to check." Later that evening, back at the penthouse, the atmosphere was suffocating. Parker sat on the leather sofa, watching Bloomberg on the massive flat screen. Selina was dusting the bookshelves. "Parker," she asked tentatively. "What?" He didn't look up. "I found a receipt in your jacket pocket, from Tiffany and Company." Parker froze for a microsecond, then relaxed. He turned to her. his face a mask of condescension. "And it's for a diamond tennis bracelet. $5,000. Selina held up the slip of paper. "Is this for me?" "For our anniversary next week." Parker stood up, snatching the receipt from her hand. He laughed, shaking his head, as if she were a child asking for the moon. "Selina, look at yourself," he said, gesturing to her oversized sweatpants. "Where would you wear a diamond tennis bracelet? To the grocery store, to the laundromat." "Then who is it for?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "It's for a client." Parker lied smoothly, though the malice in his eyes told a different story. "A high-net-worth female client I'm trying to woo for the firm. It's business, Selina. Something you wouldn't understand. Now stop snooping through my pockets like a jealous teenager." He turned back to the TV. "By the way, I'll be away the weekend of the 15th. Work conference in the Hamptons. Partners only. Don't wait up." Selina stood there for a moment, watching the back of his head. The 15th was the date of the Golden Horizon Gala. She knew it. Every major investor in the city knew it. "Okay, Parker," she said quietly. "Have fun." She walked back to the bedroom, closing the door softly. She sat on the edge of the bed and opened her laptop, a heavy, secure toughbook she kept hidden under the mattress. She logged into a secure server. The screen flooded with data stock tickers, asset allocations, and a live feed of the Sterling and Finch internal email server. She had access to everything. She opened an email drafted by Parker to Jessica Vane. Subject: The weekend. "Body can't wait to see you in that gold dress. I bought the bracelet. The mouse bought the lie. Let's celebrate my promotion early." Selina stared at the screen. A single tear rolled down her cheek, but she wiped it away angrily. She opened a chat window. The user ID on the other end was A_Pendleton_legal. "Selina, change of plans, Arthur." "Arthur, ma'am, Selina. I'm attending the Golden Horizon Gala. Arthur. But Mr. Archer believes you are staying home. He has registered Mrs. Vane as his guest. Selina, I know. Let him have his appetizer. I'm coming for the main course. Arthur, shall I prepare the announcement? Selina, yes. And Arthur, release the embargo on my identity. It's time the world met Selina Kensington." Arthur understood. "And the dress, Selina, get the red Alexander McQueen from the vault in Paris, the one my mother wore to the G7 summit. If he wants a trophy wife, I'm going to show him what a dynasty looks like." She closed the laptop. In the other room, she could hear Parker laughing on the phone, likely with Jessica. "Enjoy it, Parker," she whispered to the empty room. "It's your last laugh." The Friday of the Golden Horizon Gala arrived with a sky the color of bruised iron. Inside the penthouse, the air was thick with Parker's frantic energy. He was packing a sleek leather weekender bag, tossing in silk ties and cologne bottles with practiced arrogance. Selina stood by the kitchen island, clutching a mug of lukewarm tea. She watched him. To him she was a piece of furniture, dull stationery and functional. To her he was a dead man walking. "All right, I'm off," Parker announced, zipping the bag. He walked over to her, pulling a crisp $100 bill from his money clip and dropping it on the counter like a tip for a waitress. "Order yourself something decent. Don't wait up on Sunday. I might go straight to the office from the retreat." "The retreat?" Selina repeated, her voice flat. "With the partners." "Yes, Selina, the partners. We're discussing the future of the firm. It's boring, high-level stuff. You'd hate it." He checked his reflection in the microwave door, adjusting his hair. "Try not to burn the apartment down while I'm gone. And if the cleaning lady comes, tell her she missed a spot in the master bath last week." He didn't kiss her goodbye. He didn't even look her in the eye. He just grabbed his bag, swiped his keys, and the heavy door clicked shut behind him. Selina stood still for exactly 10 seconds. Then she walked to the counter, picked up the $100 bill, and dropped it into the garbage disposal. "Arthur," she said aloud to the empty room. The service elevator in the back of the penthouse, the one Parker thought was only for maintenance, chimed softly. The doors slid open. Arthur Pendleton walked out. He wasn't just a voice on the phone. He was a 60-year-old man in an impeccably tailored suit carrying a titanium briefcase. Behind him walked a team of 2 women with rolling cases of makeup and wardrobe, and 2 men in dark suits with earpieces. "The team is ready, Ms. Kensington," Arthur said, bowing his head slightly. "Mr. Archer has just exited the garage. He is en route to pick up Miss Vane." Selina unclipped the plastic claw from her hair, letting the brown waves fall around her shoulders. She took off her glasses and tossed them onto the sofa. "Burn the cardigan, Arthur," she said, her voice turning into steel, "and get me a drink, something stiff. I have a husband to destroy." For the next 4 hours, the penthouse transformed into a war room of beauty and power. The plain Jane facade was scrubbed away. The mousy brown hair was treated blown out and styled into cascading waves that caught the light like spun mahogany. The makeup artist contoured Selina's face, highlighting the high cheekbones and sharp jawline that she had hidden behind oversized frames for years. When she finally stepped into the dress, the vintage red Alexander McQueen structured like armor, yet flowing like blood. She didn't look like Selina Archer, the housewife. She looked like Selina Kensington, the heiress to a $40 billion empire. Arthur opened the titanium briefcase. Inside sat the Kensington Star, a diamond and ruby necklace that had once belonged to a Russian Tsarina. It was heavy gold and worth more than the entire building they were standing in. Arthur clasped it around her neck. "The press is expecting the CEO of the Kensington Group to be an old man, ma'am. A reclusive European tycoon." Selina looked in the mirror. The woman staring back was terrifyingly beautiful. "Let them think what they want. By midnight they'll know the truth. Is the convoy ready?" 3 armored Cadillac Escalades and a police escort are waiting at the service entrance. We've bought out the entire VIP floor of the Ritz-Carlton for your staging area before the gala. Selina picked up her clutch, a Judith Leiber crystal bag. "And Parker. He and Ms. Vane have just arrived at the venue. He is reportedly bragging to the bartender about his upcoming promotion." Selina smiled, but it was a smile that promised violence. "Let's go." The Golden Horizon Gala was held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, transformed for one night into a playground for the 0.01%. The Temple of Denda was bathed in amber light, and the air smelled of expensive perfume orchids and desperation. Parker Archer felt like a king. He had Jessica Vane on his arm, and she looked stunning in a shimmering gold gown that clung to every curve. They moved through the crowd, clinking champagne flutes with hedge fund managers and senators. "You see that?" Parker whispered to Jessica, nodding toward a table of Japanese investors. "They're terrified. They know Sterling and Finch is about to become a superpower once the Kensington deal closes." Jessica giggled, leaning into him. "You're so bad. Have you spotted the Kensington CEO yet?" "Not yet." Parker scanned the room. "Rumor is he's eccentric, probably some old guy in a wheelchair watching from the balcony. Doesn't matter. Once I get 5 minutes with him, I'll charm the checkbook right out of his pocket. I've got the pitch of a lifetime ready." "And Selina?" Jessica asked, smirking. "What do you think she's doing right now?" Parker laughed, taking a sip of his Dom Perignon. "Probably eating leftovers and watching a soap opera. God, it's depressing just thinking about it. Let's not ruin the night." Suddenly the ambient chatter of the room changed. It didn't stop. It shifted. A ripple of murmurs started near the massive glass entrance doors and rolled through the crowd like a wave. Heads turned. The paparazzi outside, usually a chaotic wall of noise, had gone strangely rhythmic, the rapid-fire click, click, click of 1,000 shutters going off at once. "What's going on?" Parker craned his neck. "Did the president arrive?" "Maybe it's a movie star," Jessica said, standing on her tiptoes. The heavy doors swung open. The room went silent. It wasn't the president. Entering the hall was a phalanx of 6 bodyguards, moving in a V formation. They were massive, stone-faced, and cleared a path with efficient brutality. In the center of the V walked a woman. She was a vision of red fire in a sea of black tuxedos. The Alexander McQueen dress trailed behind her like a royal train. Her skin glowed under the museum lights. But it was the jewelry that made the breath catch in everyone's throat. The rubies around her neck were the size of pigeon eggs. "Who is that?" Jessica whispered, her voice laced with sudden jealousy. "That necklace? Parker, that's not costume jewelry. That's royal treasury grade." Parker squinted. The woman was 50 feet away, walking with a stride that commanded the room. She held her head high, her eyes scanning the crowd with an air of absolute boredom. There was something familiar about the walk, something about the tilt of the chin. "I don't know," Parker muttered. "Some European royalty, maybe, or a supermodel." The woman stopped at the top of the stairs leading down to the main floor. A swarm of photographers was being held back by security ropes, screaming questions. "Miss Kensington, over here. Selina. Is it true you're buying Sterling and Finch?" "Miss Kensington, look this way." Parker dropped his champagne flute. It shattered on the marble floor, splashing sparkling wine onto his patent leather shoes. But he didn't notice. He froze. His brain stuttered, trying to reconcile 2 impossible realities. Selina, no. It couldn't be. Selina was at home in sweatpants. Selina was the woman who clipped coupons. Selina was the woman he mocked for ordering the cheapest entree at dinner. This woman was a goddess. This woman radiated power that made the CEOs in the room look like middle managers. "Parker," Jessica hissed, tugging his arm. "Why are they calling her Kensington? Why does she look like... Isn't that..." The woman at the top of the stairs began to descend. She moved with a grace that Parker had never seen in his wife. As she got closer, the details resolved. The eyes, those same intelligent eyes he had ignored for years, were now framed by smoky makeup, piercing through him. The mouth he had refused to kiss was painted a deep crimson. She walked straight toward the center of the room, where the chairman of Parker's firm old man, Sterling himself, was waiting with a look of terrified reverence. Parker stumbled forward, shoving past a waiter. He had to be seeing things. He had to be drunk. "Selina," he choked out. It was a whisper, lost in the noise. She didn't hear him, or rather, she ignored him. She stopped in front of Mr. Sterling. The room was dead silent now, hanging on every word. "Mr. Sterling," Selina said. Her voice was amplified by the acoustics of the hall, clear, bell-like, and utterly commanding. It was the voice she used to order Arthur, not the voice she used to ask Parker about his day. "I believe you have my acquisition papers ready." Mr. Sterling, a man who had terrified Parker for a decade, bowed. Actually bowed. "Mrs. Kensington, it is an honor. We didn't expect. We thought your father..." "My father retired 10 years ago." Selina said, her voice cool. "I have been running the Kensington Group since I was 22. I prefer to keep a low profile. Until now." She turned. Her gaze swept the room, panning over the sea of faces like a spotlight. Parker felt his heart hammer against his ribs. "Don't look at me," he prayed. "Please don't look at me." Her eyes locked onto him. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She looked at him with the cold, scientific curiosity of a biologist examining a bug under a microscope. Then her eyes shifted to Jessica Vane, who was standing next to him, pale and trembling. Selina's gaze lingered on the cheap gold sequins of Jessica's dress, then flicked back to Parker. She raised one perfectly manicured eyebrow. The message was clear. It was louder than if she had screamed it. "I see you. And you are nothing." Then she turned back to Mr. Sterling. "Shall we discuss the restructuring? I plan to terminate the redundant management by Monday morning. I dislike..." Dead weight. The press went wild. Flashbulbs exploded like strobe lights. Parker stood there, the shattered glass crunching under his feet, as the realization hit him like a physical blow. The plain, boring wife he was planning to divorce was the secret billionaire he had been trying to impress, and he had just brought his mistress to meet her. "Oh my God," Jessica whispered, backing away from him. "You idiot, you absolute idiot. That's your wife." Parker couldn't speak. He could only watch as Selina took a glass of champagne from a passing waiter, toasted the room, and drank. She owned the room. She owned the night. And soon, she would own him. The silence that had fallen over the Temple of Dendor didn't last. It shattered into a cacophony of whispers that sounded like 1,000 snakes hissing at once. Every eye in the room was darting between Selina Kensington, the newly revealed titan of industry, and Parker Archer, the man standing in a puddle of cheap champagne and broken glass. Parker felt the blood drain from his face. His hands, usually so steady when signing million-dollar contracts, were shaking uncontrollably. He looked to his left for support for an ally for Jessica. But Jessica Vane was already moving. She was backing away from him, her eyes wide with a mixture of horror and calculation. She was a survivor, and she recognized a sinking ship when she saw one. "Jess!" Parker rasped, reaching out. "Don't!" Jessica hissed, her voice low and venomous. She swatted his hand away as if he were contagious. "Don't touch me! Don't look at me! If she sees us together again, I'm finished." "You are with me," Parker pleaded, panic rising in his chest. "We're a team. You said..." "I said I wanted a winner, Parker," she spat, turning her back on him. "You just became the biggest loser in New York City. You didn't just cheat on your wife, you cheated on the owner of the company." With a swirl of gold sequins, she vanished into the crowd, leaving Parker alone on the island of his own humiliation. He swallowed hard, trying to regain his composure. Think, he told himself. She's still Selina. She's the woman who darns your socks. She's the woman who waits up for you. She loves you. This is just a misunderstanding. A test. You can fix this. He straightened his tie, stepped over the broken glass, and began to march toward the VIP cordon, where Selina was holding court with Mr. Sterling and 2 U.S. senators. He approached the velvet rope with the entitlement of a man who had never been told no. "Excuse me," Parker said to the massive security guard blocking the path. "I need to get through. That's my wife." The guard, a man with a neck as thick as a tree trunk, didn't blink. He looked down at a tablet in his hand, then back at Parker. "I know who you are, Mr. Archer," the guard said, his voice flat. "Ms. Kensington has given strict instructions. No unauthorized personnel." "Unauthorized?" Parker laughed, a high-pitched, hysterical sound. "I'm her husband. I'm not personnel. Current status is pending," the guard said. "Please step back, or I will escort you out." Parker's face flushed red. People were watching. He could see the smirks on the faces of his rival associates. He couldn't let this happen. He needed to assert dominance. "Selina!" he shouted over the guard's shoulder. Selina, we need to talk now." 50 feet away, Selina stopped mid-sentence. She handed her empty champagne flute to a passing waiter and turned slowly. She looked at the guard and gave a barely perceptible nod. The guard stepped aside. Parker exhaled a smug grin creeping back onto his face. "See," he thought. "She still answers to me." He strode past the guard, smoothing his jacket. When he reached the circle of power players, he tried to slide his arm around Selina's waist, claiming her. "Darling," he said, his voice dripping with forced charm. "What an entrance you really had me going there. A billionaire heiress. Why the secrecy? You know I would have loved you either way." He waited for her to melt. He waited for the shy, submissive Selina to apologize for the scene. Instead, Selina took a half step back, leaving his arm hovering awkwardly in empty air. She looked at him not with anger, but with the polite confusion one might show a stranger who had stumbled into a private conversation. "Mr. Archer," she said. "Not Parker, not Honey. Mr. Archer. Selina, come on." Parker chuckled nervously, glancing at Mr. Sterling, who was staring at Parker with open disgust. "Don't be like that. We have so much to celebrate. The merger, we're going to be rich, baby. Finally we can get that house in the Hamptons I've been talking about." Selina tilted her head. "We? Yes, we, you and me. Husband and wife?" Selina turned to Arthur, who had silently appeared at her elbow. Arthur did Mr. Archer sign the prenuptial agreement 3 years ago. "He did, ma'am," Arthur replied, his voice projecting clearly for the senators to hear. "He insisted on it. He stated, and I quote from the transcript, 'I don't want her coming after my bonuses when she realizes she's out of her league.'" A ripple of uncomfortable laughter went through the group. Parker's smile faltered. That was just legal boilerplate, Selina," Parker stammered. "I was protecting us." "You were protecting your $30,000 bonus," Selina corrected calmly, "while I was protecting a $40 billion trust fund. And since you insisted on keeping our assets separate, Mr. Archer, there is no we. There is my money, and there is your debt." Parker felt the trap snap shut. "Selina, please, let's go home. We can talk about this in private. You're embarrassing me." "Am I?" Selina asked. Her eyes suddenly hardened, the temperature in the circle dropping 10 degrees. "You told me yesterday I looked like a fired librarian. You told me I was plain. You told me I was an anchor dragging you down." She stepped closer, her heels clicking on the marble. She was taller than him in the heels, or maybe she just stood taller now. "I didn't hide my money to trick you, Parker," she said softly, so only he and the immediate circle could hear. "I hid it because my father, the late Lord Kensington, had a clause in his will. I was to marry for love, not for status. I had to find a man who wanted Selina, not the Kensington fortune. I gave you 3 years, 3 years to show me 1 ounce of kindness, 1 ounce of respect." She reached out and adjusted his crooked tie, her touch clinical. "You failed the test, Parker. Spectacularly." "I can change," Parker blurted out, sweat beading on his forehead. "Selina, I swear, I've been under pressure. I love you. Give me a chance to show you." "You had your chance tonight," she interrupted. "You brought your mistress to my acquisition gala. You bought her a bracelet with our joint account money. Oh yes, I saw the bank alert. And you plan to serve me divorce papers next week." Parker froze. "How did you—" "I own the law firm you hired," Selina said simply. The color drained from Parker's face completely. "Now," Selina said, turning back to Mr. Sterling. "I believe we were discussing the restructuring of the senior director positions. I recall seeing a name on the terminate list. Archer, was it? Mr. Sterling cleared his throat, pulling a red pen from his pocket. I believe you are correct, Miss Kensington. We can process that immediately. Parker looked from Selina to his boss. You can't fire me. I'm the top earner I brought in the Whitmore account. Actually, Selina said, taking a sip of fresh champagne Arthur had placed in her hand. Charles Whitmore is my godfather. He only signed with you because I asked him to give my husband a leg up. He called me this morning. He's pulling his funds. He doesn't like how you treat your wife. She waved her hand dismissively, the gesture of a queen banishing a peasant. Security, she said. The massive guard from the rope line stepped forward. Please escort Mr. Archer out, Selina commanded. He's disrupting the gala, and make sure he doesn't take any company property. I want his badge and his phone. Selina. Wait, Selina. Parker screamed as the guard grabbed him by the elbow. You can't do this to me. I made you. You were nothing without me. Selina didn't even turn around. She just watched the light play off the diamonds on her wrist. I was never nothing. Parker, she whispered to the air as he was dragged away, kicking and shouting toward the exit. I was just quiet, and you never learned the difference. As the door slammed shut on Parker's screaming figure, the ballroom erupted into applause. It wasn't polite applause. It was the thunderous ovation of a crowd that had just witnessed a public execution. Selina took a deep breath. She looked at Arthur. Step 1 is complete, she said. And step 2, ma'am? Arthur asked. Selina's eyes were dry. He still has the apartment key, and he thinks he still has a home to go to. Let's make sure he understands the reality of his situation. The locks are already being changed, Arthur said with a rare, thin smile. And I took the liberty of packing his belongings. Good, Selina said. Where did you put them? On the curb, Miss Kensington. It is raining after all. The heavy bronze doors of the Metropolitan Museum of Art didn't open for Parker Archer this time. They ejected him. The security team, efficient and merciless, marched him down the limestone steps. They didn't drag him, which would have been undignified for the museum, but they used a firm escorting grip that made it clear, you are trash, and we are taking you out. Gentlemen, please, Parker hissed, trying to shrug off their hands as they reached the sidewalk. I can walk. Get your hands off my suit. Do you know how much this costs? You're off the property. Mr. Archer, the head guard said, releasing him with a shove that sent Parker stumbling onto the wet pavement of Fifth Avenue. Don't come back. The skies had opened up. It wasn't just raining. It was a deluge, a freezing New York downpour that smelled of exhaust and misery. Within seconds, Parker's Italian silk suit was soaked. His hair, styled to perfection an hour ago, was plastered to his skull. But the rain was the least of his problems. The paparazzi who had been waiting for the stars to leave smelled blood. They didn't know the full story yet, but they knew a disaster when they saw one. A man in a tuxedo being thrown out of the Golden Horizon Gala was prime meat. Flash, flash, flash. Hey, over here, did you get too drunk? Who's the girl inside? Is it true she's the Kensington heiress? Look at him. It's the husband, the one she dumped. Parker shielded his face with his hand, blinded by the strobes. Get away from me. He screamed, his voice cracking. No comment. I said no comment. He patted his pockets frantically. His wallet. He had his wallet. But his phone. Selina had taken his work phone. He pulled out his personal device, a cracked iPhone he rarely used because the company phone was newer. 12% battery. He dialed Jessica. Ring. 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 Pick up, you witch, he muttered, pacing in a circle, water squelching in his patent leather shoes. The call went to voicemail. He dialed again. And again. Finally, a text message popped up on the screen. From Jessica V. Don't call me. Security at the firm just remote-wiped my laptop. I'm being escorted out of the building tomorrow morning. You are radioactive, Parker. I'm deleting this number. Good luck with the poverty. Radioactive. Parker screamed at the phone. I made you. He looked around. The black SUVs and limousines were lined up, waiting for the billionaires inside. None of them were for him. He tried to flag a taxi, but in the rain on Fifth Avenue during a gala, it was impossible. He had to walk. He walked 6 blocks before he found a cab that would stop for a soaking wet man who looked like he had just lost a fistfight with reality. Legacy Tower. Parker shivered, sliding into the back seat. And step on it. The ride was a blur of neon lights and panic. Parker's mind was racing, trying to construct a narrative where he survived this. Okay, he thought, his teeth chattering. Selina is mad. She's making a point, but she can't just throw me away. We're married. New York is an equitable distribution state. I'm entitled to half. Even if she has a prenup, a good lawyer can poke holes in it. I was under duress. I didn't know she was a billionaire. That's fraud. Yes. He would sue her. He would sue her for emotional distress. He would take her for everything she had hidden. He would be the victim. The taxi pulled up to the Legacy Tower. Parker threw a wet $20 bill at the driver and scrambled out. He rushed toward the gold revolving doors, ready to get into a hot shower, pour a scotch, and start planning his legal defense. He pushed the door. It didn't move. He pushed again. Locked. He knocked on the glass. Inside, the night doorman, a man named Henry, who Parker had walked past for 4 years without ever learning his last name, was standing at the podium. "Henry," Parker shouted through the glass. "Open up, it's stuck." Henry looked up. He adjusted his cap. He didn't move toward the door. He picked up a clipboard, checked something, and then shook his head. Parker couldn't believe it. He pounded on the glass with his fist. "Henry, open the damn door. I live here, I'm on the deed." Henry walked slowly to the door. He didn't open it. He just leaned close to the glass and spoke through the intercom system. "Mr. Archer." Henry's voice crackled through the speaker. "I have been instructed to inform you that you are no longer a resident of the penthouse." "That's illegal!" Parker screamed, attracting the attention of a couple walking their dog. "You can't kick me out. It's my home. I pay your Christmas bonus." "Actually, Ms. Kensington pays the bonuses, sir," Henry said, his face impassive. "And the deed to the unit is held by a shell company, Blue Heron Holdings, which is wholly owned by the Kensington Trust. You were listed as a guest occupant. That status has been revoked." "Guest?" Parker gagged. "I'm her husband." "Not for long, from what I hear on the news," Henry said. He pointed a gloved finger toward the side of the building, near the service entrance. "Your personal effects have been relocated." "Relocated." "To the curb, sir. Have a good night." Henry turned off the intercom and walked away. Parker stood there, the rain running down his back, staring at the lobby he was banned from. The warm, golden light of the chandelier inside mocked him. He ran to the side of the building. There, under the harsh glare of a street lamp, sat a pile of cardboard boxes. They were already soggy, the structural integrity failing under the relentless downpour. Parker fell to his knees. He ripped open the top box. It was his clothes, but not the suits, not the tuxedos. It was his old college hoodies, his frayed jeans, the t-shirts with holes in them, the cheap sneakers he used to wear before he met Selina. He tore open another box. It was filled with his accomplishments, his high school debate trophy, a framed photo of himself shaking hands with a minor celebrity, his collection of motivational business books, The Art of the Deal Rich Dad. Poor Dad, now swollen with water, the pages turning to pulp. Where is it? He frantically dug through the wet cardboard. Where are the watches? Where is the Rolex? Where are the cufflinks? He found a small envelope taped to the inside of a box. It was sealed in plastic to protect it from the rain. He ripped it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed on heavy cream-colored stationery. Parker, you always said you wanted to be a self-made man. I'm giving you the opportunity. The clothes in these boxes are the ones you brought into this marriage, the items you are looking for. The Rolex, the bespoke suits. The Italian leather were purchased with funds from the joint account. Since that account was funded entirely by my allowance, those items are considered Kensington property. I have sold them. The proceeds, approximately $42,000, have been donated to the Librarians Benevolent Fund in your name. You mentioned I looked like a fired librarian. I thought it was only fair to support the cause. P.S. I cancelled your credit cards. You were an authorized user, not the account holder. I hope you have cash. Goodbye. Selina Parker dropped the letter into a puddle. He sat on the wet pavement, surrounded by the sodden debris of his life. He reached for his phone again. 4% battery. He opened his banking app. Face ID recognized. The wheel spun. Account balance. Checking $12.42. Savings $0. He stared at the numbers. He had been making a mid-six-figure salary. Where did it go? Then he remembered. The lease on the Audi. The dinners at Per Se. The weekends in dangerous luxury hotels. The gifts for Jessica. He had spent every dime banking on the big bonus, banking on the promotion, banking on Selina being the safe, boring backup plan who paid the rent while he played the star. He was 34 years old. He had $12. He had no job. He had no home. He had no wife. A car drove by, splashing a wave of dirty gutter water over him. Parker didn't move. He just sat there, hugging a wet box of old college textbooks, and let out a sound that wasn't quite a laugh, and wasn't quite a sob. She kept the receipts, he whispered to the rain. She kept every single receipt. The vibration of his phone startled him. 2% battery. A notification from LinkedIn. Job alert, junior analyst position, available at Kensington Global. Entry level. Salary $45,000. It was the algorithm mocking him. Parker Archer, the man who thought he ruled the world, curled up on the sidewalk. Above him, the Legacy Tower pierced the sky, unshakable and warm. Somewhere on the 42nd floor in the master bedroom, he used to think he owned, the lights went out. Selina was sleeping. Parker was awake. And for the first time in his life, he saw things clearly. 6 months had passed since the night of the Golden Horizon Gala. New York City moved on quickly. The scandal of Parker Archer, the husband who didn't know he was sleeping next to a billionaire, had been the flavor of the month in the tabloids for exactly 3 weeks. Then the city found a new scandal, and Parker Archer became nothing more than a cautionary footnote in the history of Wall Street. For Parker, however, time had slowed to a crawl. He lived in a basement studio in Queens now. The rent was $800 a month, which was exactly half of his take-home pay. The apartment smelled of damp concrete and boiled cabbage from the neighbors upstairs. There was no doorman. There was no view of the skyline. There was only a window at sidewalk level where he could watch the feet of people walking by, going places he could no longer go. He had tried to get back into finance. He had sent out 300 resumes. He had called in every favor. But the name Archer was toxic. The Kensington Group hadn't just fired him. They had quietly, efficiently scorched the earth beneath him. No reputable firm would touch the man who had publicly humiliated Selina Kensington. He was a liability, a joke, so Parker took the only job he could get. The irony was not lost on him. It was 8:00 a.m. on a Tuesday. Parker adjusted his name tag. It was crooked. He smoothed down his green polyester vest, sighing as he looked around the sales floor of Page and Turner, a mid-range chain bookstore in downtown Manhattan. Archer Tour, the shift manager, a 22-year-old college dropout named Kyle, shouted from the back office. "You missed a spot in the fantasy section. The shelves are dusty. Hop to it." "I'm on it, Kyle," Parker muttered, swallowing his pride. "And smile, man," Kyle added, leaning out the door. "Customers don't like a sour puss. You're in customer service now. Act like it." Parker grabbed the feather duster. 6 months ago, he was analyzing mergers worth 9 figures. Today, he was dusting paperback editions of vampire romances. As he worked, the bell above the entrance chimed. The morning rush usually brought in commuters looking for coffee from the attached cafe, but today the energy was different. A team of 4 people entered first. They were dressed in sharp black suits, wearing earpieces. Parker recognized the look immediately. Private security. Then a woman entered. She was wearing a cream-colored cashmere coat, oversized sunglasses, and a silk scarf. She didn't look like a celebrity trying to hide. She looked like a woman who owned the pavement she walked on. Parker froze behind a stack of bestsellers. It was Selina. He hadn't seen her since the gala. He had tried to call, but his number was blocked. He had tried to send letters, but they were returned unopened by a law firm. She was walking toward the business and economics section. His section. Parker's heart hammered against his ribs. Panic and hope warred in his chest. "Does she know I'm here?" he wondered. "Is she checking on me? Maybe she misses me. Maybe she's realized that the billionaire life is lonely, and she wants her husband back." He watched as she stopped in front of the display table. On it was the new issue of Forbes. Her face was on the cover. The headline read, "The Quiet Titan, How Selina Kensington Redefined Power." Selina picked up a copy of the magazine. She flipped through it, a small, amused smile playing on her lips. Parker couldn't help himself. He stepped out from behind the shelf. "Selina," he said. His voice was rusty, cracked. Selina stopped turning the page. She didn't jump. She didn't gasp. She slowly lowered the magazine and turned her head. She took off her sunglasses. Her eyes were clear, bright, and utterly peaceful. She looked 5 years younger than the woman he used to berate in their penthouse kitchen. She looked at him. She took in the green polyester vest, the name tag, the feather duster, the dark circles under his eyes, the cheap haircut. "Hello, Parker," she said. Her voice was polite the way one speaks to a distant acquaintance. I work here now," Parker stammered, gesturing vaguely to the books. "I can see that," she replied. "It's temporary." He lied quickly, straightening his spine. "I'm consulting on the side. Just keeping busy until the market turns." "Of course," Selina said. She didn't believe him, but she didn't care enough to argue. "Selina, Parker took a step forward. The security guard behind her tensed, stepping closer. Selina held up a hand to stop the guard. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us. About how I treated you." "That's good, Parker," she said. "Introspection is valuable." "I miss you," he blurted out. "Not the money, I swear. I miss you. The pot roast. The quiet nights. I didn't know what I had." Selina looked at him for a long moment. There was no anger in her eyes anymore. That was the worst part. Anger implies passion. Anger implies attachment. There was only pity. "You don't miss me, Parker," she said softly. "You miss having someone to look down on. You miss having a mirror that makes you look big by comparison. But I broke the mirror." She reached into her purse, a Birkin bag that cost more than Parker's yearly salary at the bookstore, and pulled out a $20 bill. "I'd like to buy this magazine," she said, holding it out to him. Parker stared at the money. "Selina, please, don't do this." "It's a transaction, Parker," she said firmly. "Ring it up." Trembling, Parker took the magazine and the cash. He walked to the register. His hands shook as he scanned the barcode. "Beep. That's $8.99, he whispered. She left the 20 on the counter. "Keep the change." "I can't take your charity," he gritted out. "It's not charity," Selina said, putting her sunglasses back on. "It's a tip for excellent customer service." She turned to leave. At the door, she paused, looking back at the man who had once held her life in his hands, the man who had mocked her plainness while spending her fortune. "You know, Parker," she said, her voice carrying across the quiet store. "You were right about one thing." Parker looked up, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "What?" "I really do belong in a library." She smiled, gesturing to the books around him. "It's peaceful. You should try reading sometime. You might learn that the cover never tells the whole story." The bell chimed. The door closed. Parker stood alone at the counter. He looked down at the magazine. Selina's face stared back at him, bold and beautiful. He looked at the change on the counter, $11.01. "Archer," Kyle shouted from the back. "Stop daydreaming. The romance section isn't going to dust itself." Parker Archer, the man who wanted an upgrade, picked up the feather duster. He walked back to the shelves, fading into the background, a plain man in a plain vest disappearing into the silence he had once forced upon his wife. Parker Archer learned the hard way that when you treat your partner like an accessory, you might just find yourself out of fashion. He spent years searching for gold, never realizing he was holding a diamond the entire time until he threw it away. It's a brutal reminder. Never mistake silence for weakness, and never mistake modesty for poverty. The person you overlook today might be the one holding the keys to your future tomorrow. Parker thought he was the main character, but he forgot that even the main character can be written out of the script if they fail to be a decent human being. So here is the question. For you guys, do you think Selina was too harsh in the end, or did Parker get exactly what he deserved? I want to see your verdict in the comments below. Team Justice or Team Mercy? If you enjoyed this story of karma and redemption, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Thanks for watching. And remember, be careful who you mock. You never know who they really are.